Ducati Motor Holding S.p.A. is an Italian company that designs and manufactures motorcycles. Headquartered in Bologna, Italy, Ducati is owned by German automotive manufacturer Audi through its Italian subsidiary Lamborghini. History. In 1926, Antonio Cavalieri Ducati and his three sons, Adriano, Marcello, and Bruno Cavalieri Ducati, founded Società Scientifica Radio Brevetti Ducati in Bologna to produce vacuum tubes, condensers and other radio components. In 1935 they had become successful enough to enable construction of a new factory in the Borgo Panigale area of the city. Production was maintained during World War II, despite the Ducati factory being a repeated target of Allied bombing. Meanwhile, at the small Turinese firm SIATA, Aldo Farinelli began developing a small pushrod engine for mounting on bicycles. Barely a month after the official liberation of Italy in 1944, SIATA announced its intention to sell this engine, called the Cucciolo, to the public. The first Cucciolos were available alone, to be mounted on standard bicycles, by the buyer. However, businessmen soon bought the little engines in quantity, and offered complete motorized bicycle units for sale. In 1950, after more than 200,000 Cucciolos had been sold, in collaboration with SIATA, the Ducati firm finally offered its own Cucciolo-based motorcycle. This first Ducati motorcycle was a 48cc bike weighing 98 lb with a top speed of 40 mph, had a 15-ohm carburetor giving just under 200 mpg US. Ducati soon dropped the Cucciolo name in favor of 55M and 65TL. When the market moved toward larger motorcycles, Ducati management decided to respond, making an impression at an early 1952 Milan show, introducing their 65TS cycle and cruiser. Despite being described as the most interesting new machine at the 1952 show, the cruiser was not a great success, and only a few thousand were made over a two-year period before the model ceased production. In 1953, management split the company into two separate entities, Ducati Meccanica S.p.A. and Ducati Elettronica, in acknowledgement of its diverging motorcycle and electronics product lines. Ducati Elettronica became Ducati Energia S.p.A. in the 80s. Dr. Giuseppe Montano took over as head of Ducati Meccanica S.p.A. and the Borgo Panigale factory was modernized with government assistance. By 1954, Ducati Meccanica S.p.A. had increased production to 120 bikes a day. In the 1960s, Ducati earned its place in motorcycling history by producing the fastest 250cc road bike then available, the Mach 1. In the 1970s Ducati began producing large displacement V-twin motorcycles and in 1973, released a V-twin with the trademark desmodromic valve design. In 1985, Cagiva bought Ducati and planned to rebadge Ducati motorcycles with the lesser-known Cagiva name. By the time the purchase was completed, Cagiva kept the Ducati name on its motorcycles. In 1996, Texas Pacific Group bought a 51% stake in the company for $325 million US. Then, in 1998, bought most of the remaining 49% to become the sole owner of Ducati. In 1999, TPG issued an IPO of Ducati stock and renamed the company Ducati Motor Holding S.p.A. TPG sold over 65% of its shares in Ducati, leaving TPG the majority shareholder. In December 2005, Ducati returned to Italian ownership with the sale of Texas Pacific's stake to Invest Industrial Holdings, the investment fund of Carlo and Andrea Bonomi. In April 2012, Volkswagen Group's Audi subsidiary announced its intention to buy Ducati for $860 million. Volkswagen chairman Ferdinand Piëch, a motorcycle enthusiast, had long coveted Ducati, and had regretted that he passed up an opportunity to buy the company from the Italian government in 1984. Analysts doubted a tiny motorcycle maker would have a meaningful effect on a company the size of Volkswagen, commenting that the acquisition has a trophy feel to it, and is driven by VW's passion for nameplates rather than industrial or financial logic. Italian luxury car brand Lamborghini was strengthened under VW ownership. Audi AG's Automobili Lamborghini S.p.A. subsidiary acquired 100% of the shares of Ducati Motor Holding S.p.A. on July 19, 2012 for a $747 million. Ownership. Since 1926, Ducati has been owned by a number of groups and companies. 1926 Euro 1950 Euro Ducati family, 1950 Euro 1967 Euro Government Istituto per la Ricostruzione Industriale Management, 1953 Euro split into Ducati Meccanica now called Ducati Motor and Ducati Elettronica now called Ducati Energia. 1967 Euro 1978 Euro Government EFIM Management, 1967 Euro 1973 Euro headed by Giuseppe Montano, 1973 Euro 1978 Euro headed by Cristiano Dica. 1978 Euro 1985 Euro VM Group, 1985 Euro 1996 Euro Cagiva Group ownership, 1996 Euro 2005 Euro Texas Pacific Group ownership and going public, headed by CEO Federico Minelli, 1996 Euro 2001. Returning for 2003 Euro 2007. 2005 Euro 2008 Euro Invest Industrial Holdings S.p.A. 2008 Euro 2012 Euro Performance Motorcycles S.p.A. An investment vehicle formed by Invest Industrial Holdings, BS Investimenti and Hospitals of Ontario Pension Plan. July 19, 2012 Euro present Euro Automobili Lamborghini S.p.A. Audi AG acquired 100% of the voting rights of Ducati Motor Holding S.p.A. via Audi's Automobili Lamborghini S.p.A. subsidiary. From the 1960s to the 1990s, the Spanish company Mototrans licensed Ducati engines and produced motorcycles that, although they incorporated subtle differences, were clearly Ducati-derived. Mototrans's most notable machine was the 250cc 24 Horas. Motorcycle designs. Ducati is best known for high-performance motorcycles characterized by large-capacity four-stroke, 90-degree V-twin engines, with a desmodromic valve design. Ducati refers to this configuration as L-twin because one cylinder is vertical while the other is horizontal, making it look like a letter L. Modern Ducatis remain among the dominant performance motorcycles available today partly because of the desmodromic valve design, which is nearing its 50th year of use. Desmodromic valves are closed with a separate, dedicated cam lobe and lifter instead of the conventional valve springs used in most internal combustion engines in consumer vehicles. This allows the cams to have a more radical profile, thus opening and closing the valves more quickly without the risk of valve float, which causes a loss of power that is likely when using a passive closing mechanism under the same conditions. While most other manufacturers use wet clutches, Ducati previously used multiplate dry clutches in many of their motorcycles. The dry clutch eliminates the power loss from oil viscosity drag on the engine, even though the engagement may not be as smooth as the oil bath versions, but the clutch plates can wear more rapidly. Ducati has converted to wet clutches across their current product lines. Ducati also extensively uses the trellis steel frame configuration, although Ducati's MotoGP project broke with this tradition by introducing a revolutionary carbon fiber frame for the Ducati Desmosedici GP9. Product history. The chief designer of most Ducati motorcycles in the 1950s was Fabio Taglioni. His designs ranged from the small single-cylinder machines that were successful in the Italian street races to the large-capacity twins of the 1980s. Ducati introduced the Panther in 1979. Its engine was updated in the 1990s in the Ducati Super Sport series. All modern Ducati engines are derivatives of the Panther, which uses a toothed belt to actuate the engine's valves. Taglioni used the Cavallino Rampante on his Ducati motorbikes. Taglioni chose this emblem of courage and daring as a sign of respect and admiration for Francesco Baracca, a heroic World War I fighter pilot who died during an air raid in 1918. 1950s. 1960s. 1970s. In 1973, Ducati commemorated its 1972 win at the Imola 200 with the production model green-framed Ducati 750 Super Sport. Ducati also targeted the off-road market with the two-stroke Regolare 125, building 3,486 models from 1975 to 1979, but the bike was not successful. In 1975, the company introduced the 860 GT, designed by noted car stylist Giorgio Giugiaro. Its angular lines were unique, but raised handlebars made for an uncomfortable seating position at high speeds and also caused steering issues. 1980s. Ducati's liquid-cooled multi-valve V-twins made from 1985 on are known as Desmo Quattro. These include the 851, 916 and 996, 999 and a few predecessors and derivatives. 1990s. In 1993, Miguel Angel Galazzi introduced the Ducati Monster, a naked bike with exposed trellis and engine. Today the Monster accounts for almost half of the company's worldwide sales. The Monster has undergone the most changes of any motorcycle that Ducati has ever produced. In 1993, Pierre Terblanche, Massimo Bordi and Claudio Domenicali designed the Ducati Supermono, a 550cc single-cylinder lightweight catalog racer. Only 67 were built between 1993 and 1997. In 1994, the company introduced the Ducati 916 model designed by Massimo Tamburini, a water-cooled version that allowed for higher output levels and a striking new bodywork that had aggressive lines, an under-seat exhaust, and a single-sided swing arm. Ducati has since ceased production of the 916, supplanting it with the 749 and 999. 2000s. In 2006, the retro-styled Ducati Paul Smart 1000 LE was released, which shares styling cues with the 1973 750 Super Sport, as one of the Sport Classic series representing the 750 GT, 750 Sport, and 750 Super Sport Ducati motorcycles. Monster, 620, 695, 750, 900, S2R, S4R, ST2, ST3, ST4, Paul Smart 1000 LE in Sport Classic variants, Super Sport 750, 900, 1000, 748, 749, 848, 996, 998, 999, 1098, 1098S, 1098R, 1198, Desmo Sedici-R, current lineup. Monster, 696, 796, 1200, 1200S, Multistrada, 1200, 1200S, 1200S Pikes Peak, Diavel, Chromo, Carbon, and Strada, Superbike, 899 Panigale, 1199 Panigale, 1199 Panigale S, 1199 Panigale Hypermotored, Hypermotored SP, Hyperstrada, Street Fighter, 848, current engines, Desmodu, Desmodromic 2-valve, air-cooled, 60 a degree included valve angle, Testastretta 11 a degree Desmo 4-valve, liquid-cooled, 11 a degree valve overlap angle, Testastretta 11 a degree DS, Desmo 4-valve, liquid-cooled, 11 a degree valve overlap angle, dual ignition, Superquattro, Desmo 4-valve, liquid-cooled, past engines, Desmodu Evolution, Desmo 2-valve, air-cooled, Desmodu DS, Desmo 2-valve, air-cooled, 56 a degree included valve angle, dual ignition, Desmodu LC, Desmo 2-valve, liquid-cooled, Desmotor DS, Desmo 3-valve, liquid-cooled, 40 a degree included valve angle, dual ignition, Desmo Quattro, Desmo 4-valve, liquid-cooled, 40 a degree included valve angle, Testastretta, Desmo 4-valve, liquid-cooled, 25 a degree included valve angle, Testastretta Evolution, Desmo 4-valve, liquid-cooled, 24.3 a degree included valve angle. 41 a degree valve overlap angle, motorcycle design history. Ducati has produced several styles of motorcycle engines, including varying the number of cylinders, type of valve actuation and fuel delivery. Ducati is best known for its V-twin engine, called a L-twin by the company, which is the power plant in the majority of Ducati-marked motorcycles. Ducati has also manufactured engines with 1, 2, 3 or 4 cylinders, operated by pull-rod valves and push-rod valves. Single, double and triple overhead camshafts. Two-stroke and even at one stage manufactured small diesel engines, many of which were used to power boats, generators, garden machinery and emergency pumps. The engines were the IS series from 7 to 22 HP air-cooled and the larger twin DM series water and air-cooled. The engines have been found in all parts of the globe. Wisconsin Diesel even assembled and badge-engineered the engines in the USA. They have also produced outboard motors for marine use. Currently, Ducati makes no other engines except for its motorcycles. On current Ducati motors, except for the Desmosedici and 1199 Panigale, the valves are actuated by a standard valve camshaft which is rotated by a timing belt driven by the motor directly. The teeth on the belt keep the camshaft drive pulleys indexed. On older Ducati motors, prior to 1986, drive was by solid shaft that transferred to the camshaft through bevel-cut gears. This method of valve actuation was used on many of Ducati's older single-cylinder motorcycles. The shaft tube is visible on the outside of the cylinder. Ducati is also famous for using the desmodromic valve system championed by engineer and designer Fabio Taglioni, though the firm has also used engines that use valve springs to close their valves. In the early days, Ducati reserved the desmodromic valve heads for its higher performance bikes and its race bikes. These valves do not suffer from valve float at high engine speeds, thus a desmodromic engine is capable of far higher revolutions than a similarly configured engine with traditional spring valve heads. In the 1960s and 1970s, Ducati produced a wide range of small two-stroke bikes, mainly sub-100cc capacities. Large quantities of some models were exported to the United States. Ducati has produced the following motorcycle engine types: single-cylinder, pull-rod actuated, 48cc and 65cc, push-rod actuated, 98 and 125cc, two-stroke, 50, 80, 90, 100, 125cc, bevel actuated, spring-valved, 98cc, 100cc, 125cc, 160cc, 175cc, 200cc, 239cc, 250cc, 350cc, 450cc, bevel. Actuated, desmodromic valve at a 125cc, 239cc, 250cc, 350cc and 450cc, belt actuated, desmodromic valve at a 549-570 seconds a cc supermono, only 65 made. Two-cylinder, bevel actuated, spring-valved, 750cc, 860cc, bevel actuated, Desmo-valved, 750cc, 860cc, 973cc, bevel actuated, Desmo-valved, 125cc, chain actuated, spring-valved, 350cc, 500cc, chain actuated, Desmo-valved, 500cc, belt actuated, Desmo-valved, almost all motors since 1986. Four-cylinder, gear actuated, Desmo-valved, pushrod actuated, spring-valved, prototype Apollo, only 2 made. Enthusiasts groups. A key part of Ducati's marketing strategy since the 1990s has been fostering a distinct community identity in connection with branding efforts including online communities and local, regional and national Ducati enthusiast clubs. There are more than 400 Ducati clubs worldwide and 20,000 registered users of the Ducati Owners Club website and 17,000 subscribers to the racing website. Enthusiasts and riders are informally referred to in the motorcycling community as Ducatista or Ducatisti. In North America there are several Ducati enthusiasts organizations with varying degrees of factory sponsorship. DESMO, the Ducati Enthusiasts Sport Motorcycle Organization, is a North American group affiliated with the Factory Dismo Owners Club. Some groups are focused on vintage Ducatis while several are based primarily or entirely on email discussion lists or web forums such as Ducati.net. Ducati products other than motorcycles. Ducati Meccanica has its mark on non-motorcycle products as well. In the 1930s and 1940s, Ducati manufactured radios, cameras, and electrical products such as a razor. Ducati made a marine binocular called the BIMAR for the Kriegsmarine during World War II, some of which were sold on the civilian market after the war. The Ducati Sogno was a half-frame Leica-like camera which is now a collector's item. Ducati and Bianchi have developed and launched a new line of racing bicycles. Currently, there are 4 Ducati companies: Ducati Motor Holding, Ducati Corse, Ducati Energia, a designer and manufacturer of electrical and electronic components and systems, and Ducati Sistemi, a subsidiary of Ducati Energia. All are located in Borgo Panigale and Bologna, Italy. Ducati Motor Holding often uses electrical components and subsystems from Ducati Energia. Merchandising: Ducati has a wide range of accessories, lifestyle products and co-branded merchandise bearing their logos and designs. The company has a licensing agreement with Tumi Incorporated, launching a collection of 8 co-branded luggage pieces in 2006 sold through both of the brand's retail outlets. Racing history: Ducati's history with motorsport began with speed records on Cucciolo motorized bicycle factory races in 1951, followed in 1954 with bringing in Fabio Taglioni to found a road racing program with the 100 Grand Sport. As of 2009, Ducati was still pursuing the win on Sunday, sell on Monday business model and spending 10% of company revenues, $40 million, on its racing business. MotoGP World Championship: Ducati rejoined Grand Prix motorcycle racing in 2003, after a 30-year absence. On September 23, 2007, Casey Stoner clinched his and Ducati's first Grand Prix World Championship. When Ducati rejoined MotoGP in 2003, MotoGP had changed its rules to allow 4-990cc engines to race. At the time Ducati was the fastest bike. In 2007, MotoGP reduced the engine size to 800cc, and Ducati continued to be the fastest with a bike that was markedly quicker than its rivals, as was displayed by Casey Stoner on tracks with long straights. For 2009, Ducati Marlboro team campaigned their Desmosedici GP9 with former world champions Casey Stoner and Nicky Hayden. Ducati also supplies customer bikes to the Alice team, with Mika Kallio and Nicholas Squared Canapor riding for the team in 2009. Ducati has announced that for the 2011 season, 9-time world champion Valentino Rossi will ride for Ducati Corse. This relationship ended at the end of the 2012 season, with Rossi returning to the Yamaha team for the 2013-14 seasons. Superbike World Championship: for 2009, Ducati will race a homologated version of the 1198. The FIM, the sanctioning body for the Superbike World Championship, has raised the displacement limit for 2-cylinder engines to 1200cc. In 2007, Ducati raced their 999 F07, which is a homologated racing version of the 999 because maximum displacement for 2-cylinder engines was limited to 1000cc. The company has won 13 Riders' World Championships since the championship's inception in 1988. It has been argued that Ducati has amassed more wins than any other manufacturer because the rules are deliberately set to favor their bikes through manufacturer lobbying. This, of course, is a matter of dispute. In 2006, Troy Bayliss championship-winning 999 was quoted to have 10 to 15 HP less than the Japanese 4-cylinder rivals, despite the fact that the Ducati V-twin had fewer limitations imposed for tuning its engine. Noriyuki Haga finished the 2009 World Superbike season aboard the factory-backed 1098R second overall behind Ben Spies, with 8 wins, and 19 podiums. Ducati has also won 16 S.p.A. Manufacturer World Championships for years 1991 to Euro 1996, 1998 to Euro 2004, 2006, 2008 Euro 2009 and 2011. Supersport World Championship, FIM Superstock 1000 Championship, British Superbike Championship. The British Superbike Championship has been won by Ducati riders on 8 occasions and entered since 1988. AMA Superbike Championship. In the AMA Superbike Championship, Ducati has had its share of success, with Doug Poland winning the title in 1993 and Troy Corsa the following year in 1994. Ducati has entered a bike in every AMA Superbike season since 1986, but withdrew from the series after the 2006 season. Ducati had an important place in early superbike racing history in the United States and vice versa. In 1977, Cycle magazine editors Cook Nielsen and Phil Schilling took a Ducati 750 SS to first place at Daytona in the second-ever season of AMA Superbike racing. Nielsen retired from racing at the end of the year, but the bike he and Schilling built, a Euro nicknamed Old Blue for its blue livery, a Euro became a legend, says Richard Backus from Motorcycle Classics. How big a legend? Big enough for Ducati to team with Italian specialty builder NCA to craft a limited edition update, New Blue, based on the 2007 Sport 1000S, and big enough to inspire the crew at the Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum, arguably one of the most important motorcycle museums in the world, to commission Ducati specialist Rich Lambretz to craft a bolt-by-bolt replica for its collection. The finished bike's name? Deja Blue. Australian Superbike Championship. See also, List of Italian companies, List of motorcycle manufacturers, Notes. External links, Ducati.com official website, Ducati Motorcycles at DMOZ, Ducati Organizations and Clubs at DMOZ, Ducati Businesses at DMOZ.